Welcome everyone to the Sell Better, which I still think of as JB Sales, so please correct me, session on how to research your accounts in 5 minutes or less, which I am personally very excited about. I'm somebody who takes way too long to do account research. So
I was too, Leslie. Don't even worry.
So I'm fired up. And I'll try not to gush and be too much of a fangirl here, but like, I just cannot rave about the Sell Better team enough. Like I literally, for folks in the audience, I literally pay for access to the platform because it's amazing. And this is a hard job and we all get stuck sometimes. And for me, just having that go-to place when I feel like I'm hitting a brick wall is amazing. So I just cannot thank you all enough for being here. And I will turn it over to you to do introductions.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yourselves.
That was lovely. And really, Leslie is part of our community. We love having you as part of our community, and we love everything that's happening at Power to Fly. So really excited to be a part of this inaugural Sellathon and excited to meet you all here in the chat too. There's a handful of us here. So anything you want to say, if you want to come off mute, have a conversation with us, if you want to stick it in the chat. Shelly and I are having conversations day in and day out with salespeople, sales professionals, and people who are looking to make a move into sales. So wherever you are in your career journey, I'm happy to continue the conversation with you. But just like Leslie mentioned, we are here, and can you see my screen?
Yep.
Okay. It doesn't have my box around it. So we're going to talk about research, especially as we're kicking off the sales challenges. And let me know in the chat, has everyone already selected which challenge or challenges they're participating in? I would love to see. You don't have to say which one, but just give us like a thumbs up or like a smiley face, or you could tell me, like, are you Team Expedia? Let us know what challenge you're doing. We're going to talk about researching prospects. So this can apply throughout your career for sales in general, but then also we're going to utilize this as something to kick off where you're starting your sales challenge. So really looking forward to today's session. Please chime in, jump in the chat. Don't be shy. We're excited to chat with you. I am Leslie, and this is my lovely partner in crime and sales.
Hi, everybody.
Shelly, and we maybe not crime. Crime's just partner in sales.
Yeah. We just don't say we didn't warn you that we like to have a little bit of fun here. We crack jokes. We're also moms of kids like under 5? How old would be 5?
She's
so
6, yeah.
6. So brace yourselves, guys. Like we want to have a good time. We have about an hour together. Let's make the most of this hour.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay. So just a quick overview.
You ready?
Ready.
Right. So here we go. When we are researching an account, we're going to talk about how to do it under 5 minutes. But before we even get there, we need to lay the groundwork. We've got to have a foundation. So, think back to the who, what, where, right? The W's, the how. What is it that we need? Where do we need to go look for it? So we don't often think about these things so granularly. But again, we really, in order to create or get the most effective research from what we're doing, we want to set ourselves up for success. So again, we're going to go through these very specifically. Again, there's going to be some things maybe many of you have already heard, right? But on the flip side, we want to engage with you all in the chat, or again, come off of mute and tell us what you're doing. Because again, there may be some sites that we share with you, or maybe there's something that you have that's working for you that everyone else can benefit from. But the point here is we need to lay some groundwork before we can even get started before we can even reach out or before we can even research what is it that we're looking for. So let's keep going.
Yeah, I want to start with this thought of anyone in here, tell us in the chat, or you can say yes out loud. Anyone a puzzle person who likes to put puzzles together? I feel like especially during the first bit of 2020, a lot of people started talking about puzzling, like grabbing a puzzle, doing it with the family, something to keep our mind busy, right? I like to think about and start off here with, if I'm doing a puzzle, I don't know what it is, but there's always that like one piece and you think that it goes in this spot and you know it doesn't, but you're going to keep trying over and over and over again. It's like trying to fit something into a spot where it doesn't belong is a lot of times how I try to think about we're approaching clients and sales, and we have all of this phenomenal information to offer to our prospects, but trying to figure out what's important to them can be like what puzzle piece fits where.
Right.
How many people set goals? Are you a person who sets goals at the beginning of the year and you pick like some certain things to focus on? Yeah. I think about it like this. If I don't know what my prospect or my client's goals are, how can I come alongside them and make sure that what I'm saying to them from the very jump before we ever get on the phone, what am I going to say that's going to capture their attention? What am I going to say that's going to get them interested? So Shelley, tell us a little bit more about like this relevance piece. And my screen is looking funny, but we're going to
Nope.
put it up. Pretend like this E is over here. Not sure
That's
what
okay.
happened.
It happens every so often. So when we think about relevance, okay, so this is the way we think about this is there's two components to it, right? And we want to be very clear because a lot of us get caught up in this beautiful content that our marketing teams are putting out, right? Whether it's a case study, a testimonial, a white paper, and so on, right? We've got all this collateral, all these things that we have like access to, the content. But when you really think deeper about it, it's all about the context. And as sales professionals, whether we're new or whether we're tenured, it is so important that we're providing context. So really the way you separate it and the way we look at it here at Sell Better is let marketing do the content, right? And if we could kindly go on mute for those that aren't, that would be awesome. Sorry. Thank you. We think of marketing as content and sales as the context. And we really want to find that blend of being efficient and effective. And so what I mean by that is an example is, let's say, for instance, you're sending a white paper to somebody or a case study, whatever you're sending to a prospect. That's great. I'm sure whatever your team has put together is fantastic. But tell me why I should read that white paper. What is in it that is going to capture my attention, be a focal point for me? Because again, it's one of those things. I always like to give it just an analogy that's not necessarily work related. So follow me for a second. If I want to tell you to watch a TV show, so, for example, if I say, hey, everybody, go watch Ted Lasso, one of my favorite TV shows. You're going to say, why, Shelley? I've got 15 TV shows already in the queue. I don't have time. But if I tell you why to watch Ted Lasso, it's got great stories around leadership. It's super funny, super engaging. There's always a point in that series that'll make you laugh. I've now shared 4 reasons, 4 pieces of context why you should watch it. I'm hoping that it's moved somewhere higher in your queue. So same thing with work. When you're sending a professional, when you're doing some professional correspondence, that context is really important. I went on and on. Leslie, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would say like if we're taking it to the business side of things, I often think about this in the realm of webinars. So like we're all here together today, but sometimes you sign up for a webinar and timing just doesn't work and you can't make it. Right? Has that happened to anyone else? Like you can give me a thumbs up, give us a 1 in the chat if you're not on camera. But yeah, like I sign up for webinars all the time. Can't make it. I really am interested. It matters to me, but timing just doesn't work. I'm always like, oh, I hope they send the recording. How often are we actually going and listening to the full recording? Not very often. I have this like big giant bucket of here's all the webinars that I want to go back and watch someday. But I think if we're talking about prospects again and trying to find that relevance, I look at their title and I say, what are some things that this person might care about? Let me go and think about the webinar. Hey, Leslie, I know you couldn't make the webinar, but here listen to minutes 4 through 7 because, and then giving them the reason why you think it would be impactful for them. It's so huge for them to then go, I'm way more likely to go listen to a 4 or 5 minute chunk of a webinar than I am to listen to the 45-minute whole entire piece. But once I'm there, I might keep and I might engage, right? It's that relevant piece to them that matters based on their title or conversation you had previously.
And really quick, something to add to that, it really goes to show your credibility, right? I'll give another very, very quick example. The last thing you want to do is send this awesome white paper or webinar that your team has put together, and then you don't apply any context, and then your person or your prospect ends up asking you a question about it. And then you're completely stumped. You didn't watch it, or you don't know what you're sending. And it's again, credibility is huge. It's how you show you know what you're doing, how you care. Are you being, are you taking the time? If the expectation is to have the prospect take the time and effort to watch or read it, you also should do
the same.
So, yep.
Yeah, great call. I do want to say, if you're having trouble with the screen bouncing back and forth, I got a couple messages. If you switch it to speaker view, sometimes that's helpful. If your Zoom is switching back and forth when people are joining in. I want to get us into this idea now of we're going to start executing. So what is it that we need whenever we're looking for like efficient, quick research when we're going to prospect? And Shelly and I like to think about this in 2 different buckets. And the buckets that we put together are categories. These are more based on what's going on in their business that's static. So things like, where are they located? Where's their headquarters? How many locations do they have? Annual revenue, headcount in specific department, what industry are they in? I think about these things as more business category type things. And then there's also the other bucket that's compelling events. So this is the things that you are going to see in the news or pop up on LinkedIn, something like they're hiring a title type that you're reaching out to. They have a new product that's launching, a merger, an acquisition. Maybe they have previous experience at a former company with your organization. Those people know the value. These are things that are really interesting and a really good reason to reach out. And the reason why we're bucketing them here is because our messaging can either be something that's relevant to a category, like their industry, their title type, something that's more static, or I can create really relevant messaging based on connecting my value or our company or organization's value to a compelling event going on within their business. So these are the 2 things that as we start looking for what do we need to know before we actually pick up the phone, before we send an email, it's like these are 2 really good areas to focus in and say, I'm going to look for categories. Do they fit into my ideal client? And then are there things going on in their business that make right now a really good time to be like, yeah, now is a good time for us to do business because XYZ.
And this goes back to that foundation we talked about setting at the beginning, right? We know that when it comes down to the nitty gritty, prospecting takes time. So the reason we do this again is before we get to that 5 minutes of under 5 minutes of research, how are we setting ourselves up for success? So doing this exercise of identifying these categories and compelling events just makes it so that over the course of time, it becomes easier. So case in point, categories. I know Leslie and I love to give examples, so just bear with us because we want to get you to start thinking too, what are your own examples, right? So for instance, I mean, look at it this way. We, Leslie and I, we sell sales training. So we're working with SaaS companies, SaaS software companies. Oftentimes, I mean, if we're just looking at that, well, goodness gracious, our list is what, 5 million prospects? We are going to be stuck here writing messages forever. So how do we continue to refine that list? Okay. Now we're looking for companies. Again, this is a Leslie Shelley Sell Better by JB sales characteristic that we're looking for is, Are they using Salesforce as CRM? Are they using a sales engagement platform? Knowing what they're using helps us better define what message we're going to create. So that's the category, the static categories that Leslie was referring to. And then second to that are these compelling events. So again, another example that we love to tap into is hiring. When we see a company's hiring, we get excited because that means we have a lot of offerings that we can say, hey, based on your upcoming hiring schedule, this is where we fit into the mix. So really defining these from the get-go. And by the way, it's going to take a little bit of trial and error. Look back at your previous wins. Look back at where you've had success before. And what are the common themes that you see through this? Because again, ultimately, this will help that research process become even faster.
Agreed. I want us to brainstorm as a group. Can we do this in the chat together or off mute, whatever works best for you? But I want us to think about before you reach out to account for the very first time, before we ever pick up the phone, before we ever send an email, I think about a couple things because does anyone else get lost in research? Sometimes I'm easily distracted. I know. So, okay, there's a few of us where I will start researching a prospect and then I see like, I'm reading their mission or their vision and I'm so excited and I'm into it. And then I go look in their events page and I see that they have something cool and it links me to their Facebook, their company Facebook. But then all of a sudden I'm on someone else's page looking at cute pictures of their dog on a skateboard or their children. And I'm like, 45 minutes later, I haven't made a phone call. And so I'm trying to like, how do I keep myself to what do I need to have before I make that very first call? It's a little bit different if you are an enterprise rep. Maybe it's a little bit more time involved. Maybe there's more things on your checklist. Then if we're just having a conversation, we don't know if that person is even interested or if they have the need or the desire to move forward with something that we are going to be asking them to have a conversation about, then we can kind of rein it back. So let's talk about and brainstorm together. What's a need to have? What do you need to know? What goes in your need to have bucket about an organization or a company before you pick up the phone or before you email? You can throw it in the chat if you want. Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy.
This is when I do my tap dance for you.
Yeah, that's that. She'll actually stand up and tap dance. So I'll kick us off. And I mentioned this before, we're looking for companies with CRM. Do you have a CRM?
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's broad, but we need it, right? I don't really know. Leslie, tell me otherwise. How do we effectively teach filling the funnel or driving a close if we're CRM-less? So this is a need to have for us.
I think like my top few, and I'm seeing some here and these are like specific to you as well, right?
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
I think really broad across all of us, no matter what, the things we need to have is a person, a person to reach out to, right? I know that's really basic, but then my only other one is an understanding of what they do. Does that fit into our typical client? If I have a person to talk to and an understanding of what their organization does, I think like bare bones across the board for all of us. That's kind of our basic need to have before we pick up the phone. But I'm seeing a lot of really great pieces that are probably more tuned into who you're looking to speak to. So, Leslie, you mentioned the chief diversity officer. That's something that's a really good leading indicator that you're going to have a great conversation, right? That's someone who yep. A statement that's public. Those are things that you're like, those are people who are going to the top of my list to call, right? Because I know that we can have a conversation and help someone out there. Let's talk about like the bigger bucket of things. The nice to have. Shelly, you want to get us started again? What's in your nice to have bucket?
My nice to have is, again, now we go back to technology. Are they using, and again, these could be specific. They could still, I like to be as specific as possible. I'm looking for sales engagement platforms. So for instance, are they using Outreach or SalesLoft? The reason I like this is because it tells me / shows me their investment into their sales organization, into technology. It shows me that they're looking to make their sales teams efficient, right? Otherwise, if you're not building cadences or sequences, are they just throwing emails out there just in, nowhere land? So I'm looking for, again, companies that have this level, this platform. Now, this is just one of many things that I'm looking for, but again, to each person, it's going to be a little bit different.
Yeah, I throw in there, like, if I can get more information on their organization's priorities, like maybe they have a 10K or an annual report that I can go through and find some information. If I can find more than one, we said just one person to reach out to. Even better if I can find
More.
2, 3, 4, 5 people that I think I can have a great conversation with. But you get the picture, right? We're looking at 2 different things. What do I really need to have? Because a lot of times we get stuck in our research because we're looking for this huge laundry list. And my friend Nick at 30 Minutes to President's Club, shout out, they're a great follow. I heard him say recently, complexity is the enemy of execution. And it really stuck with me. Complexity is the enemy of execution. If I start this huge laundry list of things that I want to have before I ever pick up the phone, the amount of calls that I'm going to make is going to really decrease, right? Like we're not making more than 3 calls today because I'm going to be on the internet all darn day. So Shelly, talk to us about where we find this stuff.
Okay. I really actually like that. I just wrote that down, Leslie. It might be a LinkedIn post. I like that because I think that complexity is the enemy of execution is for anything personally and professionally. Sorry. A side note. I really like that. That said, where do we find this? Everywhere, anywhere. It is totally up to you. As you all can see, Leslie's got this beautiful slide here. These are probably just a handful of resources that are out there. I am curious from the folks in the audience, is there another site that you all may go to that works better for you than some of the ones that you don't see on here? I mean, I know, for instance, I love company website. I love Navigator. One of the ones that Leslie introduced me to when I first started at Sell Better was craft.co. So for me, it doesn't matter. I mean, where you all go, but I am curious. So Nick, I see Twitter, most organizations that have a social media usually have Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. These are awesome resources. These are fantastic. Seeing what's those that tweet on a regular basis, that's golden information. What else? What are some other resources from the audience that you all use?
Can I give a shout out to YouTube just while we're here? YouTube has been a really golden fountain for me in the last 6 months because people, and yeah, it's definitely different for private and public companies. Great shout out. But I think if your decision makers are typically, if they are active on a YouTube channel, you can pull out a direct quote and you can say like, hey, I saw or watched a YouTube video where you were featured. I loved when you said, and then put their quote. That's one of the highest response rates is if you can give someone a direct quote that they said, there's this piece of, I need to say thank you. That's the kind thing to do. I need to say thank you for listening to the content that I put out or that I was featured on. So really interesting, like if we can go find our decision makers on those YouTube channels,
I like that. And Leslie, to point out on YouTube too, oftentimes people don't realize that their organization may have a YouTube channel. So then you come in there and it's like, oh, I have a YouTube channel. So not only are you inserting something new, but going back to your point about that decision maker, again, everybody loves to get their horn tooted. Let's just be very, very clear about that, right? So whether you can get a direct quote off of a news article or even a video, I mean, it goes a long way. Right. So YouTube, I mean, they just say, I mean, again, and then it's a nice maybe email touch point 3 or 4 is send that quote, and then maybe down the road, send them that LinkedIn video. I mean, that
Or the
YouTube video. It's
Mhm.
just different. Not a
Right.
lot of people are leveraging YouTube. And so it's a really good resource for information.
Agreed.
I like
You
it.
guys, you want to do something crazy? I think we're gonna put some things into practice here. And I want to share before we jump into it, kind of the reasoning behind. And listen, Shelly and I have tried to get an affiliate code for these timers. I have to find the link for you, but yeah, I have them all the different kinds. I'm really
Leslie,
trying
we
hard.
told you, we just need a tomato meter to rate our performance skills. But yeah, we have timers. Like we legit have timers.
Because I get lost. I do. I will go down a rabbit hole of researching. So there's like these ones have longer minutes on them. If this is you, I'll send you a Amazon link. I just found them on Amazon, but I don't have to pick up my phone because the phone distracts me. When I'm going to research a prospect for the first time, and I'm talking about not if you are, I mean, pick your own time level here. I started with 10 minutes because it takes me a little bit longer. Now I'm at 3. So now I use my little 3-minute here and I flip it over. I set myself a timer for 3 minutes and I go look at as much information in that category and compelling events buckets that I can find about my prospect. And I want you to put the caveat on it. We're about to practice here together. So just a heads up. But what's the caveat on that being that we want to make sure that we can get as much information about our prospect as possible, but make ourselves as efficient as possible. So if I can find 3, 4, 5 ways to connect with you over the next 3 minutes, I can kind of stockpile my next calls and emails to you really efficiently. So now I'm going to take note. Okay, here's 3 reasons that I could do business with this person right now, and 3 reasons to write a message so that I'm not ending up just like, hey, Shelly, it's me again. Did you get my last email? Now I have 3 really value-oriented reasons to show up in your inbox or on your voicemail or in conversation with you.
Okay.
So I want to like pull up the screen. Shelly, were you going to share something else?
Yeah, sorry. Going back to just our fun timers. Again,
Oh, yeah.
it sounds so, and I hate to use the word basic, but just go with me for a moment.
Elementary.
Elementary, right? Foundational. But to Leslie's point, phones, we all go down a rabbit hole, right? This is it's accountability. 5, 10, it doesn't matter what you set it to. The point that I want to hone in on that Leslie said as well is she started off at 10. Now she's at 3. That repetition, that consistency is also what's key here. And if you noticed earlier, I said themes, right? So you're going to start to notice, okay, the businesses that those categories are going to stay similar across the board. Maybe you keep it that way for a quarter or 2 quarters. Those triggers or those compelling events that we talk about, same thing. They're going to start to become the same. And so what happens is those value-oriented messages that Leslie was referring to also become very similar. Leslie has just helped everybody out and probably just increased Amazon sales again. She put the link in there. This is kid friendly as well. We won't share how many that we have for the kids either. So just
I will say, pay attention, because at first I was like, oh, I want the cute colors, but the color changes the numbers. So like this one is 1, 3, 5, 10. This one is 30, 60, 15, 20. So
like a
look
full
at
on promo.
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to get on their payroll, but they're not having it. So we're going to put this into practice. We are going to do what Shelly and I like to call the effective research challenge. Whoop, whoop. Okay. So this is when we need your participation. Pull open a nice, beautiful web tab for yourself. And I know this is like the only time you've been in a training or a webinar where someone's like, hey, I want you to go open up the internet and
tab,
do something else. But I want you to think about which of the sales challenge groups, and if you're in multiples, pick one. And I want you to pull up all the resources that you can on those. So like their website, their LinkedIn, wherever else you would look for information. And we're just going to do a nice little challenge. Shelly's going to give you the rules here in a minute, but I just want to make sure that everyone is on the same page here. We're going to pull up any sort of resources we can on the company, and we're going to pretend like they are your prospect. So we're pretending like the company that you're in the sales challenge for, we're pretending like they're your prospect. Shelly, you want to give us the rules?
Yeah. And you add to this if I'm leaving anything out. So here we go. Leslie has just shared on the screen a handful of examples of compelling events. She says, so what we want to do here is based on the group that you've selected. So for instance, if you've selected Expedia Group, can you find one of these bullets or three of these bullets? And by the way, we do want to also, again, we like to caveat a lot, is there may be a compelling event that you don't see here. So really what we want you to do is find a compelling event and compelling event that is applicable to your org. So again, I believe you're doing, there was three groups, CDW, Expedia Group, ServiceNow, whichever your group is, whichever org you are reaching out to, we want you to find X number of categories, whatever you see fit, and Y number of triggers. Let's start with 3. Leslie, do we want to set a timer for this as well, just to give people an idea of how long 5 minutes is or how short
I think
5
we
minutes
do,
is?
or how short. Yeah. I
Yeah.
think I try to say, like, let's go look for as many as
Great.
we possibly can. And let's use a 5-minute timer. We'll meet in the middle. We'll do 5 minutes. And I'm going to go ahead and set one here. And then we'll come back and say how many reasons to reach out did each of us find. Is that fair for everyone? We feel good about it?
Thumbs up. Give us a thumbs
Okay.
up. Yep. Okay.
I'm going to set, actually, I really like the YouTube timers whenever we're on a screen together. So I'm going to share that and go ahead and start doing some research. Come back and let us know how many reasons to reach out that you found. Oops. Also, while you're doing that, I'm going to put in the chat, we do free content 5 days a week. Leslie was mentioning it earlier when we first started. If you put your email address in that page that I just threw in the chat, you can have access to our free content 5 days a week, always talking about tips for salespeople. If you can't see the timer, we have about 3 minutes left. My dancing is about to come back out, you guys. I know. You love it. I was on mute, so it's 22 seconds now. I tried to give you the 30-second timer.
Are you talking to yourself?
I was. It's pretty typical, though.
It's cool. It's cool. If you only knew how often I talk to myself.
Okay, so wrap up where you are. I'm going to stop this timer because let me tell you, the sound is terrible on the Google timer or the YouTube timer. Just a heads up. You think that there's a fire alarm going on. Tell us in the chat or come off mute, how many reasons to reach out did you find in those 5 minutes?
Nice.
5. Yes.
5. Monique, that's awesome. Monique, if you're up to it, and while everyone else is still popping in the chat, feel free to come off of mute or even put in the chat. 2 is still good. Don't worry. But
So
Monique,
good.
just out of curiosity, what did you find? Like what did you find and where did you find this information? I'm sure it would be helpful for everyone to hear where you drill down on this information. Don't be shy.
And Leslie, I mean, really, it is just having a reason to reach out. I ask myself this all the time. And, I have Shelly keep me accountable. We try to do this for each other, but when you make a phone call, just saying before you pick up the phone, why am I calling? Before I send an email, why am I going to send an email? You just came up with 2 reasons. And those 2 reasons can now be 2 emails, 2 phone calls, a social. Like you can reach out with the same thought on different channels and just change up our wording and how we approach it. And I think it's still really powerful because we have a reason why we should do business together now. Where did you find yours?
For the group, real quick. Yeah, Leslie, where did you find yours, just out of curiosity?
Sales Navigator.
Great.
Nice.
There we go. Sales Navigator is one of my favorite platforms. And I will say, to piggyback off of Leslie, the reason. That's for everything. And honestly, the data backs it up. I know there was some Gong data released earlier this year that supports that if you state the reason for your outreach, which again, the more you can make it about your prospect and them, the higher chance you have at engaging them. Because if you think about it, when you get most of us have received a phone call, random phone call, cold call, right? And the first question that we ask ourselves is, who are you? Why are you calling? Who are you calling? Yeah, exactly. Who are you? Right?
Why are you calling me? What do you want?
The quickest way is to say the reason. So Leslie and I, it's really interesting. If you go back and watch some of our trainings, we often tend to dial this part of our training up. The notches go up, right? Because if you don't have a reason, don't reach out. So us doing this research is that reason.
Totally agree. I like to talk about it like Everyone has that comfy spot on their couch or a chair or a nice place in their home. And if you are comfy at the end of the day and you've put away your computer already and you're trying to hang out and just maybe like relax a little bit, and something for your biggest prospect is like, here's a piece of news. What's the thing that's going to like get you out of your comfy spot on the couch? I like the corner because you can have like the whole thing, you know, I like to sit in the corner, but what's going to get me out of my comfy corner spot to go email or call somebody? That's like when I find something like that and I can create value. Now we're having a conversation that I know is impactful, that matters to them, instead of me just saying, we're the leading provider of this, and here's a case study and a white paper that may or may not land. If I can have a really strong reason and some value to add and something that's like, here's why I'm reaching out to you, way more impactful.
And if you think about it from their perspective, so two things on that, right? If you think about it from their perspective, your prospect's perspective, they're going to invest their time in something that's going to help them, help their organization, make them look good, make them be up here, right? Versus, again, if you just go in and you start saying me, us, right?
Mm.
But the second thing I always ask people to do, and we don't do this often enough, and you have to be real about it, you have to be honest to yourself, is be in your prospect seat for just a moment. Send that email to yourself. Read it on your phone, read it on your desktop, right? Wherever you ask yourself, am I likely to respond to this message if I received it? Am I going to benefit this? Is this going to help me? Is there value for me to respond to this?
Yeah.
Depending on that answer, that can be very telling of what you're going to get back in response. But Monique, shout out to you. This is awesome information. These are awesome, compelling events. These are great, compelling events.
And I think like once you find something, like you're going to see patterns. You know, Shelly mentioned a few examples. When I see someone's hiring salespeople, that's a really great, compelling event. But how do I tie that to my value proposition? How can I show up and say, like, this is why we should be talking? Here's your event. They know that's going on. They know they're hiring. How can I tie that to the value that we can bring in our partnership and us working together? So I know that, Google XP group pays. Okay, I like it. So then all of these things, as you're starting to look at your challenges, I want to put a challenge out there on top of your challenge. We're just going to get wild. Like, there is a awesome article that talks about, and it's the International Association of Sales Professionals, and I'll find the article and link it in the Discord channel, but it was talking about the top characteristics of successful sales professionals. And one of the top 3 things was, and their words, not mine, this obsession with time management. And when we're talking today about this efficiency and how do we get in and out of there, right? The whole theme today is 5 minutes to research and get a meeting. That's about value, and it's about our efficiencies. So if we can find good reasons and provide valuable outreach, we're more likely to book a meeting. And that time management piece of things is what gets us there. So as you're going through your challenges, what do we really need? And what can you do? Like, how can we attach ourselves to a timer for a minute and say, like, what do I need to do? Let me race. I'm gamifying everything. I put on a timer to fold my laundry. I put on a timer all the time. It's kind of embarrassing. I do a timer and I clean my office before I leave at the end of my day every day. I'm going to set myself a 3-minute timer, tidy everything up so that when I come in, it's nice. But like putting these efficiencies on ourselves, it's almost like we're competing, right? And it's like, even though I'm racing myself, all of a sudden I have to win. Can't let the timer win.
Yeah. We often underestimate, and I think we've learned, as you get into it, as you start to find a groove, that gamifying piece, it helps create that momentum as well, right? Again, you start to do it over and over again. It's just like anything. You're just like, oh, I'm going to start to learn this. I'm going to get quicker at certain ways, but certain things. But absolutely, I couldn't agree more. The gamifying piece always helps.
So I just put it in the channel again here. We are constantly talking about, this is one tiny piece of the puzzle. We go through all different parts of the sales cycle. 5 days a week, we have free content. That's the first link, that's sellbetter.xyz/subscribe. That will give you access to all of our free content. But then our YouTube channel as well. Our YouTube has tips. We're posting daily recaps of all of our webinars with people in the sales industry. So if you're interested in more information, and then we also have a special for being here with Power to Fly with us as well, for our membership. So if you, Leslie put a link as well into, and you'll get it in an email afterwards. But if you want to sign up for our membership, we have sales courses that help with prospecting, with closing, all different sorts of in-between conversations, personal branding, LinkedIn. And for being a part of this here with us today, you can take 20% off with the code. We'll make sure that it's everywhere that you might need it. And we really want to just thank you for taking the time and spending time with us here today. If you want to stay in touch with Shelly and I, our LinkedIn is in the chat as well, both of our LinkedIn pages. We would love to connect with you and be on this journey with you. But I have to put it out there. Any questions for us as we're wrapping up here in this session? Anything that you want to talk about? Everyone going to go buy a timer, or at least set a timer for yourself as you're going to do research in the rest of your day?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, and I really wanted to highlight that what you're sharing is directly relevant to at least two of the sales challenges, because the CDW one is about pitching yourself to them.
Yep.
But I still think understanding, the more you understand about, I would say, how they're trying to grow their sales, the better you could structure that pitch. But like, this is so helpful for the sales challenges, not to even mention what we all do on a daily basis.
Right.
So thank you.
Yeah, of course. And I was just going to end it as well on the note of Leslie did pop in our LinkedIn information. If you all ever have any questions on how to research or how to find triggers, how to add value, send us a note. I mean, we're happy to help at any point. Yes. Anytime, always.
Love it. We do. And we want to support you as you carry on your journey. So I think all good people out there trying to do good things and help other people, you're in the same boat. We're all here together. Let's all lift each other up.
Woo, I like it. All right,
I
folks.
could
Sell
not
better.
agree more. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Have a great afternoon.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
You too. Take care.